Like a plonker.
Yeah.
In 3! No. In 3! In 3, 2, 1, we're back. Another episode. How are you?
I'm well.
What about this?
Nice oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
My bad. Nice tan, by the way.
Thank you. And
You've been
too.
away.
I've been away and I'm back. And that's why there's been a bit of a wait since our last video. But don't you fret.
They were quaking in their boots.
All 238 of you, we are back.
Squeaky bum time.
Have you decided what we're going to talk about today?
Not really, no.
Neither have I. But anyway, here's what I know. I was reading today
Go on.
that Aaron Taylor Johnson, is that his name?
Yeah.
This Bond candidate that we spoke about before
Yep.
is literally a shoo-in now and all but guaranteed to be the next 007. How do you feel about that? How do you feel?
I'm not sure yet because I had not read that until you just informed me.
Okay,
So I need some time to digest it. But now that I'm on camera, I guess I'm going to have to freestyle this, right?
that's the whole point.
I guess my first thought is, like everyone who's preceded him,
Yeah.
right? What is his interpretation of the most famous 3-number
Secret agent.
ID
Exactly.
is he going to bring to the fore?
Exactly.
right?
Now, that's a very good question and a very good subject to talk about. Why don't we go through
Okay.
the past Bonds and look at their characteristics?
Okay.
And then from there, we
Okay.
can decipher and deduce
Okay.
and whittle down what Aaron Taylor Johnson, we need a kind of a shorter way to refer to him, will be like as Bond.
ATJ.
ATJ.
You see,
Go
I
on.
did that.
I like that. That's smart.
This is
Smart. All right, talk to me about ATJ. What do you think? Actually, talk to me
No,
about...
I don't know yet. I haven't.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I haven't seen too much of his
Okay,
work.
talk
to be
to me
honest
about
with you.
David Niven, the very first Bond.
Well, he's not the very first Bond,
Ah.
actually. Write that down. You should have written
Okay,
that down
okay,
somewhere.
okay,
All right,
okay,
fine,
okay.
fine. The very first Bond, obviously, Sean Connery. David Niven starred in the spoof, what do you call it, Fleming offshoot version, Casino Royale, made in 1967.
Thank you.
Starring Peter Sellers.
Very good.
Right? And David Niven played,
Have you seen that, by the way?
I have,
And?
a bit like a carry-on film.
Okay.
So not very good.
So my kind of film.
Your kind of film.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Okay.
Connery.
Connery. Now
Okay.
we're talking.
Cast in 61, 62.
Eon Productions.
Eon Productions, Cubby Broccoli, Harry Saltzman, the two producers, who fought hard to get Connery cast against the wishes of big studios at the time.
Yeah.
Columbia turned.
Why? Because he was an unknown.
He was an unknown. They considered him this rough, gruff bodybuilder type. You know, he had bodybuilding acclaim.
Yeah,
he was
yes,
a champion.
yes. Of course.
I can't remember what weight class he was in.
Yes.
But nevertheless, he wasn't an accredited
Fine.
bodybuilder, right?
Now, what kind of a Bond was he? We know this. You know this. Rough, gruff, suave, slick, misogynistic, no nonsense. Any other adjectives? you
Tall,
want?
dark, and handsome,
Sure.
with good hairpiece.
Very good hairpiece.
Very
The
good hair-
system back then was spot on.
Very spot on.
Was it a hairpiece from the very beginning?
I think in Dr. No, the first film, it
Yes.
was his own hair.
Okay.
But by the second film, which was a year later from Martial with Love, they started doing some kind of like jiggery pokery.
But it was seamless.
But it was seamless, okay?
And that is the best special effect of all. Go on.
And, by the way, I would like to add as well
Yes.
that when you think of Connery, most people consider him the greatest Bond, even still today. And funnily enough, it's so funny how every single...
It's all right. Sorry, close call over there. Don't worry, carry on. Every single Bond, yes?
that has since played it, like, idolizes Connery, tries to base their work on Connery, tries to all do that thing. So I'm wondering, do you think Connery is actually the best Bond because he embodies all the characteristics that Bond should have, or is it just because he came first and therefore he created the template against which all subsequent interpretations, versions have modeled themselves on?
I think yes.
Do you think the second?
I think whatever you just said, yes. I think because he was the first, he kind of set the tone. That's why people consider him the best Bond. And was he good? Of course he was very good. But was he any better than Dalton? Who knows? Maybe if Dalton had come first, we'd be saying Dalton was the best Bond ever, right? Or you know, Lazenby, for example. Had Lazenby come first, you never know.
No, I don't. I think that's a bit of a harsh critique on,
Really?
on Connery.
No, I'm not saying he was bad. I'm just saying he was the first, and that gives him an advantage.
I think it
Because
gives
now
them
you're-
advantage,
yeah.
but let me say this.
Yeah.
Had they got the casting wrong to begin with,
Yes.
had they cast David Niven or Cary Grant or James Mason, these were some of the people who were earmarked for the role at the time. Had they cast somebody even bigger or smaller and not had found lightning in a bottle at the time, would the Bond franchise have endured 60 years and 25 films? I personally don't think so.
Okay.
Because I think a lot of, but this is all obviously like
Hearsay.
Monday, what is called Monday morning quarterbacking, right? And retrospective viewing and all that kind of stuff. Is that when a film works, it works for like a confluence of reasons, right? Part of it is great story, great music, great directing, great acting, and obviously another key component, which is sometimes overlooked, is chemistry. Which is why I always think to myself that actors who, we should talk about that in another episode, actors who turn down great parts, right? There are so many stories. I don't think that they should necessarily regret that, to the extent that had they played it, it might have been a very different film and not as good a film.
Exactly,
You know,
exactly,
for example, I read that like
exactly.
Al Pacino was
Yeah.
considered for the role of Pretty Woman instead of Richard Gere. Now, that would have been a completely different film, and probably not at all what the final product looked like, right? It would have been a completely different film. And Tom Selleck, for example, was cast. He was supposed to be Indiana Jones. Okay, now that might have been more similar to the source material, and he might have played it out more kind of, you know, as Harrison Ford did. You just don't know, I think. And I think the thing about Bond is that there are many interpretations, and they kind of they adapt the character so much according to what do you call it? What's going on in the news, current affairs, social climate, social acceptability, now, of course, woke movement, and so on and so forth. However, at the time, I think that what Connery's attributes were that were so prominent, and that I actually think, in fairness to him, no other Bond has managed to replicate as faithfully, okay, as Connery, is that, and perhaps you can challenge me on this point.
Well, I'm still thinking about your use of the phrase jiggery pokery for the last 10 minutes, but yes, go on.
But perhaps you could challenge me on this. Connery is tall, dark, and handsome.
Yes.
Right? You've got three components
yes,
there.
Yes.
He's funny.
But they're all tall.
No.
dark, and
Okay. That's my point. Okay. He's funny.
Yes.
He's very tough.
But but Connery's outstanding characteristic is not humor.
No. But what I'm saying is he is funny. Something that George Lazenby lacked, Timothy Dalton lacked, and some people say Daniel Craig lacked. Okay, so I'm saying
Daniel Craig definitely lacked.
Okay, so fine. So what I'm saying is that okay, so we have these attributes. Okay,
It's
very good.
Yeah.
He's very tough on screen.
I wouldn't
He's a good fighter.
I wouldn't
He's
say
a good-
Connery was funny, but he had a bit of a dry wit about him. He had a bit of sarcasm about him, which is considered humor, you know, by some.
He is, and
by me
it's a-
definitely.
we
but
know
he
him
wasn't
to be a
out
good-
and out funny guy. He's not, cracking jokes.
Okay, he didn't play the role like Roger Moore.
Moore was cracking jokes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that first and foremost, your attribute should not be being a wisecracker, right? So Connery had the sufficient amount of
jiggery pokery.
of sardonic
Get
humor.
it out of my head.
Sardonic
Jiggery
humor.
pokery.
Of sardonic humor.
Yes, fine.
Needed for the role, all right?
Yes.
A great fighter, a great mover and fighter on screen.
Sure.
All right, as demonstrated in many a scene where he's fighting Oddjob, where he's fighting Hans
Okay.
in You
Okay.
Only Live Twice, where he's fighting.
But like that's nothing.
Largo.
I know. I get it.
Thunderball.
But like those fight scenes are now dated. I mean, compare that to what
You mean the
Daniel
the
Craig
karate
did.
chop from Roger
Yes.
Moore?
Is that Yeah, exactly.
It
Compare
actually
that to
works.
what Daniel Craig did. Actually, that's maybe one of the positives of the Craig era is the physicality.
Okay, well, Connery though, but you have to
know, each in
you
their
have to
own
judge
time.
it on
Yes, in their
a curve.
context.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm saying for its time,
Yes.
he was a trailblazer.
Fine.
Connery.
Fine.
Okay, and another thing, I'm just going to say another thing. So, the dry wit, the fighting style.
So listen.
How
I
he
get it.
comes across on screen.
Is Connery your favorite?
No. No,
No, you
not
love
necessarily.
Dalton. We know that you love Dalton.
Yeah, but let me just. But like, I'm trying to be objective here.
Yeah.
The other thing is, and this is something that that Dana Broccoli referenced in the great documentary Everything or Nothing.
By the way,
Yeah.
Maybe we should do a review of that.
Absolutely.
Okay, go on.
Absolutely.
If you haven't seen Everything or Nothing, the Bond
it's a
documentary,
masterpiece.
it really is.
Okay. She said that when Cubby was, screen testing, and he came to her because he valued her opinion. Daniel Broccoli was the Cubby Broccoli's wife. Is he sexy? Right? And she said, are you kidding me? Of course he's sexy. Another key attribute, because sex appeal has nothing to do with looks, right?
Of course.
It's
he
an
needs
intangible
to
thing.
be able to seduce women.
100%.
That's like one of Bond's main,
And one of the things that Craig
skill
got credit
sets.
for
Yes.
is that in the absence of having these dashing looks, he did have sex appeal, right? Something that maybe Brosnan had dashing looks, but maybe not that great sex appeal.
I don't know. That's one for the ladies.
That's one for the ladies. Okay. What I'm saying is that Connery, you could probably legitimately say, had every box ticked.
Right.
I would think
but
so.
every box ticked is like, this is what I'm trying to say. He created the boxes.
Perhaps. But nevertheless, you can outdo the master. Can you not? I mean,
give me an example.
Daniel LaRusso has now defeated Johnny Lawrence.
Okay, fine.
Mike Barnes.
All right, let's not get into
John Kreese and Terry
Let's not
Silver.
go down that road.
Okay.
You're giving me, trauma here. Now, okay,
PTSD?
fine. So basically, bottom line is he ticks all the boxes, but I'm saying he created all the boxes.
Okay,
Let's
fine.
move on to Lazenby.
Okay, Lazenby comes in.
Yes.
Okay, as this Australian model
And fails in a big way, right? Whether he was good or not, whether you liked him or not, which I liked him very much, and I liked that film.
An amazing, on Majesty's Service, an
And a great
amazing film.
But he failed. Why? Because it's always going to be difficult to follow up the originator.
He is not a great actor.
Plus, he's not a great actor.
Some of the acting is. Some of the lack of acting chops is quite evident on film, right? However,
and if you know Lazenby's backstory and how he got the role, then you understand.
Model on the famous Big Fry chocolate commercials, right? Bluffed his way into the audition. I mean, that's a great story, but that's been referenced in documentaries since, right? Bluffed his way into getting cast. Actually managed to convince and impress Messrs. Broccoli and Saltzman with like his incredible physicality, right? Because he was this kind of athletic model type guy.
Fine.
Okay. But you know what? Great at the romance, I have to say, Lazenby, because it's the most
sex appeal. I'd say yes.
I say yes too, but I've heard people mock him, especially when he's like going undercover as Sir Hilary Bray, wearing the kilt and like saying like, "Call me Haley." But Sir Hilary, I think you do not like girls, Sally. Usually I don't, but you're not usual. And he plays that actually like that undercover role for about 1/3 of the film. However, incredible in the skiing scenes.
Incredible in the skiing scene. Exceptional in the last scene, which we won't give any spoilers if you haven't seen it. Actually, kind of heartfelt and sincere and in the moment. So that's Lazenby. So Lazenby, obviously he comes after Connery, not doing great. Let's just go through the rest quickly.
Okay, Roger Moore.
I mean, he went in a totally different direction, and maybe that's the trick. Maybe Lazenby was trying to be too much like Connery, and maybe he should just done his own thing, which is what Roger Moore did.
Roger Moore, obviously,
he completely transformed the role of Bond.
I mean, Roger Moore obviously was Roger Moore obviously, at the time of his casting. Right, had a bit of a name for himself in television from playing the Saint.
Yes.
Right, and
I mean, very much like Brosnan playing Remington Steele.
Exactly.
Which we'll come on to. But go ahead. I'll be back in a second. Keep going.
And in so doing, he actually split opinion.
The recording.
Oh, thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
He polarized opinion at the time of his casting.
Yeah.
Broccoli actually was not a fan of casting him. Okay. Saltzman was.
Right.
Okay. So
what was Broccoli's gripe?
I'm not sure exactly what I think he didn't feel that he embodied enough of the tough guy physicality. The machismo that Connery brought to the table.
And the jiggery-pokery.
And the jiggery-pokery. And don't forget, at the time of the casting of Live and Let Die, which was in 1973, okay, Can't get that out of your head, huh?
I mean, listen, every time we say jiggery pokery, you guys got to take a shot. All right, go on.
At the time of the casting in 1973, I think what they wanted was a safe pair of hands.
Yeah.
Because the Lazenby experiment had failed for a multitude of reasons.
Exactly. They went back to Connery.
They went back to Connery for Diamonds
But
Are
Connery
Forever.
now, the toupee is not looking as good as it did. It's not as seamless.
By the way,
so we need to.
amazing. But just one thing, I think he looks amazing. Connery looks amazing in Diamonds Are Forever.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how much he aged.
Yes.
In like 4 years,
Yes.
right? From
Yes.
You Only Live Twice, Diamonds Are Forever. I mean, he's more heavy set. You know, he looks a bit more wrinkled and haggard.
Yeah,
I think the toupee looks great in that, by the way.
Okay, fine.
He looks about like 15 pounds heavier, incidentally, all right? Anyway, I think they wanted a safe pair of hands when they turned to Roger Moore. So they had somebody with like an affable screen presence playing, well, an agent type, but obviously The Saint was a very light-hearted film, very, very poorly adapted, I must say, in 1997. Do you remember? On the big screen by Val Kilmer.
Yes.
Remember that?
Yes, I remember.
Yeah.
We were quite excited when that
Very
came,
excited.
But it was a bit of a flop.
It was. So anyway, Roger Moore did 7 entries, the most, by a distance, actually, over 12 years.
Yeah.
That's when they were pumping them out year after year. Moore, this is an interesting fact. Moore, when he donned the tuxedo, 46 years old, right? Older than Connery. So like Connery's already finished, you know, his 6 films. Moore steps in. So you actually think to yourself, Connery could have played that role, if you think about it, for 23 years.
But the thing is, Moore look.
You think Moore looked more youthful?
Exactly.
Well, I think it's interesting.
In that last Connery film, he does look quite.
But I'm going to tell you something, What Connery fought against throughout, and he fought against it. I thought he fought against it, and he's very open about this. He is the most, he's the least vain person there is. He's very proud of that. He actually would refuse to wear a toupee off screen. Didn't care how he dressed, didn't care how he looked. If you actually Google Sean Connery, how he actually looked in the late 60s, the early 70s, when he's in his late 30s, early 40s, it's remarkable the contrast between how they do him up on screen. He didn't give a flying hoot, right? Whereas Moore, permanent tanner, right? There is some like strange hair work going on there. I'm not exactly sure he's doing, but there's some great, and there's certainly a dye job, because Moore, up until he passed in the late 80s,
I'm not even
was rocking the chestnut hair dye. Okay, even when he was like 88.
Probably the best chestnut in the business. So.
There's no dispute for me there. Okay, so a much more vain man, Roger Moore, right, and more of a dandy.
Yes.
Right, and played the role that way. I personally love Roger Moore.
Yes.
He's the first Bond I grew up with. The first film I saw in the cinema was View to a Kill in 1985. I know what your first one was.
I think it was as well.
Probably the same one. Okay. Now, what do we like about Roger Moore? He's obviously very handsome. He's very affable. He's very likable.
Listen, the films are just more fun.
Okay.
And again, you know, they were the films, as you said, that we grew up on. So we have an affinity to those films. I wonder if that wasn't the case, whether we would look back on them as fondly.
I'm not sure. I don't know, but I actually love Connery's films as well. The ones I find the most dated, incidentally, are 2 of his most celebrated ones, which are Dr. No and From Russia with Love.
Yeah. I find them very slow too.
They're very slow, and I actually think Bond really became Bond in Goldfinger.
No. I mean, that's something that many people agree on. Sorry, just going to Roger Moore, they're amongst my favorite. Like Live and Let Die, I really love. What else do I really like?
Spy Who Loved Me?
No, not as much.
Octopussy,
I really like too.
Man with the Golden Gun?
Yeah, I mean that's an awful film, but for some reason I really like it.
That's his most heavily panned film.
Yes. No, not Moonraker.
Oh, well, actually, no, but you know what? After Man with the Golden Gun, because of like lukewarm reception from both the box office and critics, they thought the film franchise was now teetering on the brink of maybe redundancy and extinction. And that's also the same time when Saltzman exited, because he had financial problems and he sold his stake at a great loss. And then Broccoli was kind of on his own. And the reboot, in fact, even though it's interesting, it only took 3 years. The films were being pumped out either 1 or 2 years apart from one another, which is incredible now. Now there's a Bond film comes out, there's like a 5-year gap between each one, if not longer than that. But there was a 3-year gap between Man with the Golden Gun
Yeah.
and Spy Who Loved Me, probably in no small part because they had to kind of adapt to Saltzman leaving, Broccoli becoming almost like the producer by himself. And they went for broke with this one. Higher budget, higher spectacle. That's considered Moore's best film, and it's Moore's favorite film, Spy Who Loved Me.
Yeah.
And there's a bit of revenge plot. He's actually in many ways his most badass in that film, right? And Moonraker, yes, is heavily panned, but it did great box office. And
Yeah.
Moonraker was obviously made because of the advent of Star Wars 2 years prior. They wanted to capitalize on the zeitgeist of the time, Star Trek, Star Wars, and so on and so forth, right? But certainly, some people think that Moore, overstayed his welcome. By View to a Kill, he was almost 60.
Yes.
He-
And it was
he-
just awkward with that, like the love interest. It just didn't work.
A lot of shagging in A View to a Kill,
Yes.
by the way. And the Grace Jones scene particularly tickled my fancy.
Sure it did.
Yeah, it did.
Which then leads us on to...
And by the way, fresh facelift in A View to a Kill. If
Very
you notice, the wrinkles after Octopussy are gone in A View to a Kill. You don't see them.
Take a close look.
Yeah.
Anyway.
yeah. And great in a what do you call it, all-in-one tracksuit, by the way.
Okay, yeah, no, that is great.
Do you remember the black one with,
no, that's a
when he's
great one.
infiltrating Zoran's lair?
Yes.
It's excellent. You should get
Anyway,
yourself one of those.
I should. Let's move on to Dalton. We've talked a lot about Dalton if you've watched our previous episodes. We love him. He's great. Just go through his characteristics basically. What are the standout features that the others didn't have, and he brings more to the fore?
Supremely intense.
Yes.
Dark.
Yes.
No humor.
Yes.
All about business.
The truest to the character written by...
Truest to the character. Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this in a previous episode.
Yeah. But quite a left turn after Roger Moore.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think that's why maybe it didn't really do well, or his Bond didn't do really well at the box office. And why he only did 2 films.
Compared to what his predecessors' box office returns were, yeah, it was lukewarm.
Yeah.
But obviously still profitable.
Of course, it's Bond. People are going to watch a Bond film.
And by the way, I mean, kudos to him for
Yes.
referencing this in that documentary, Everything
Yes.
or Nothing, that he references Roger Moore's interpretation of the role. And he said, I simply could not do what Roger did. Roger was wonderful in what he did. But you become a parody of yourself. You've lost depth, you've lost structure, you've lost contradictions. Before you know it, anyways.
Yes.
Right?
Definitely.
The movies had developed somewhat of a pastiche.
Pastiche. Yes. What a Welshman. I love
Right.
a Welsh accent.
Anyway,
Yes.
we
the
love
intensity
Dalton.
of Dalton,
We love
yes.
Dalton.
The intensity of Dalton.
But again, for mainstream audiences, I can certainly concede the point that he doesn't have the charisma in the archetypal Bond sense that Connery and Moore had. Okay, so I can understand for like PG audiences. This is not like a Jean Le Carré adaptation. It's an Ian Fleming. I mean, that's actually irrelevant. It's actually it's a Sean Connery
Yes,
interpretation.
exactly.
It's not even an Ian Fleming.
Yes.
But so you're basing it all on like Connery and Moore's interpretations at this point. So I understand why audiences were, shall we say, ambivalent
Yes.
about it.
Yeah.
But thankfully, in the years that have passed, massive cult following that he's developed.
Of course, and people really wish there was a third film. But anyway, we move on. We move on from Dalton to Pierce Brosnan.
Okay, so
Who I think is maybe, as a character, embodies all the best, kind of skills and characteristics and attributes of all the previous Bonds that have come before him. Unfortunately for him, the films are so badly made. Even GoldenEye, which is considered one of the better ones, which is the best one of the lot, it feels so cheap to me, so low budget.
too cartoonish.
Very cartoonish, and if he'd only had the same kind of backing and production value
And source material.
that maybe
Dalton had.
that Dalton had, and even then that Craig then goes on to have.
So,
it would have been much better. But anyway, his Bond. Why don't you just give us what stood out
So
for you?
6-year hiatus after License to Kill,
Yes.
and before GoldenEye,
Yes.
because the studio had gone through all sorts of like legal wranglings.
Oh, yes,
United
yes.
Artists,
Yeah.
and this is why the people were questioning. This was the longest period that a Bond film had not been made, from 89 to 95. Dalton eventually vacates the role by this point, not waiting around any longer, and Pierce Brosnan, who was actually cast originally in the role for Living Daylights in 1987, that eventually went to Timothy Dalton, but he eventually he had his license revoked for as far as casting goes, because he was still contracted to do Remington Steele. Remington Steele was renewed for another season, and Cubby Broccoli famously said Remington Steele should not be James Bond, because he didn't want his Bond playing a television version.
Exactly.
At
Very
the same
much
time.
like what happened with Roger Moore.
Well, except that he was no longer playing the
exactly.
Saint. So that's completely understandable.
Yeah.
And the tragedy for Brosnan at the time was that as soon as Remington Steele was recommissioned for that final season, it only lasted, I think, a number of episodes. It was canned, but Timothy Dalton had already been cast, so he felt that he had missed the opportunity of a lifetime. In any case, what are we talking about? 8-9 years later, the gods, you tapped him on the shoulder and said, "Voila, here you go. We're rebooting the franchise." Now,
and what a shame.
I'm very, very ambivalent about this. I'm very
what
ambivalent.
a shame that the film
I agree,
so
but can I
bad.
just say something?
Yeah.
There is that.
Yeah.
And for true, pure Bond fans, we feel very strongly about that.
Yeah.
Having said that, if you're Cubby Broccoli, which this was Cubby Broccoli's last film, he turned over the reins to his daughter Barbara after this, and Michael Wilson, his stepson. I think you have to remember that the box office receipts and audience and critical appraisal went through the roof. So even though we felt let down by this,
look, what's that one film what's the one with Madonna?
Oh, that was awful. That was Die Another Day.
Every
but that was his last
single line in that film is some sexual innuendo joke. It's just so bad. Every line is a sexual innuendo retort from one character to another. It's just so silly. It's so banal. I mean, I just can't get over how bad it is. Even the other films are the same.
I think
Hit me with some lines. Hit me with some lines.
I think they got progressively worse.
I mean, even the first one, GoldenEye. I know people. I know. I sound like a broken record now.
Yeah.
I know people love it, but it's really bad. It's a poor film. I mean, it has a couple of nice set pieces. I mean, the opening, jumping off the dam on the bungee cord, is probably the highlight of the film.
Okay.
And a great opening, but that's basically it for me. That's basically it.
I would like to say, from personal experience,
Yeah.
as the most obsessed Bond fan at the time, I went to see it alongside.
Were you disappointed?
I was very disappointed.
Me too.
Do you remember we were at the American School in London? Did you go to see it?
I went to
with
see
the
it.
school.
No.
Oh, I went to see it in Leicester
yeah.
Square. I was
Yeah.
so excited. I've been
Yeah.
waiting, and back then it was before the internet.
Yeah.
So I used to get snippets of, news from Empire magazine.
Yeah.
Right? It's coming out at this point.
Yeah.
Some of it's going to be set in the Caribbean.
I remember when you see that opening sequence.
Yeah.
The pre-credits sequence, I'm like, this is going to be amazing.
Okay.
This is going to be great.
Right.
And then I fell flat after it. A lot of it didn't make sense. The actual GoldenEye disc looks like the cheapest thing that you'd make in kids make in kindergarten for to buy their. I mean, it's just so bad.
And let's not forget the biggest gripe you have. The overuse of English actors
to playing
Russians.
Why?
I agree.
Why not just get Russian actors?
Like who is it? Alan Cumming playing
Robbie Coltrane. I don't know. Just a
Robbie
bunch
Coltrane
of
and Robert Carlyle in
yeah,
The World Is Not
what
Enough.
What is that about?
And I guess
there's so many good Russian actors. Let's keep it authentic. Let's keep it genuine, like you had before.
And I completely agree. And you know what it is as well about that? They're not just playing Russians, but they're playing them in such an over-the-top spoof, farcical type manner.
It's actually, you know what?
It's almost insulting.
You know what? You've hit the nail on the head
Yeah.
there. They're almost like spoof films.
Yeah.
They're so bad you think this is a parody of a Bond film,
And-
not an actual Bond film.
And you know what? This is at the same time that the Austin Powers trilogy is out. So it's not as if the Austin Powers trilogy is coming out 20 years later parodying it.
Exactly.
It's coming out at the same time, and actually some scenes, I promise you, could be blended into one another. From one franchise to the other.
Anyway.
I agree with you.
But
also, one thing
okay.
I was going to say. Brosnan's interpretation.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes,
now we
talk
have.
to me
That's what I was
about
going to say. So we talked about Connery and like ticking all the boxes. Lazenby basically not lacking the acting chops, and I don't know about the sex appeal, but he certainly had the athleticism. I can't.
Women love Pierce Brosnan.
No. Hold on 1 second. I don't think Pierce Brosnan is an actor with sex appeal. I think he's a very beautiful looking man.
Ladies, that's one for you to answer.
He's a very beautiful looking man. He's like a
Thomas Crown affair.
He's too pretty. By the way, even in that, and we love that film together, right? I think just strictly speaking on sex appeal, Steve McQueen is somebody with sex appeal, right? You know what it is? Costner is. You know what Costner is? Costner is like Kevin Costner. No, when I say Costner, Brosnan is like Kevin Costner, right? He's like vanilla, great looking guy.
Yeah.
Nice kind of vanilla acting, right? No real hard edge, very great on screen, inoffensive, accessible, but he doesn't have that kind of hard edge or whatever. However
You obviously haven't seen Lawnmower Man. If you want
Except for
edge.
that, or the Fourth Protocol. Actually, you know what Brosnan's best film is? The Matador.
So you keep saying, I need to watch that.
Okay.
If you watch that, tell us about it.
I'm going to tell you something else. Whoa. How did he play him? He was playing him too much. He was trying to embody. He was trying to copy Connery and Moore combined.
Alright.
And I think that's too... It comes across too evidently on screen that you're trying to imitate them too much. That's what's unsettling about the character. It's unsettling about the character. The way he walks, the way he stands, the way he looks, the way... There's just
I think
a
he's coming.
sense of...
He's coming.
Shit.
Yeah, go on.
Delete that bit. All right. Also, I have a massive gripe with, at the time, the high 3-button suit.
All right, listen. We're talking about the character.
Sponsored by Brioni. Unacceptable.
Okay, fine. So Brosnan's character, I mean, look at him as just a Bond. Encompasses like the best of the rest, or not?
No.
The worst of the rest.
I would like to say...
No, he's just mediocre. You're just saying he's vanilla Bond.
I'm
He's vanilla Bond. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, fine.
I'm saying
Can we
he's, the
move on to Daniel?
he's the copycat Bond.
Fine, he's the copycat. He takes the best of all the rest and puts them together, but it doesn't really amount to much.
And again, the source material is weak.
Very
so that
weak.
exacerbates it.
I don't know who the screenwriters are, who the writers of these scripts are, but they were... I don't know. Bad things should happen.
But in his defense, great box office, all 4 of them, even Die Another Day.
But again, people are going to watch a Bond film.
Well, you say that, but if you look at over the course of time,
Yes.
right, what is an acceptable minimum threshold for a Bond film? Just to break even or make money is not enough. And I'd like to make this point. No Time to Die, the most recent Bond film, lukewarm business at the box office. So they need a shake-up after
Well,
that.
when a film is that crap, that's what's going to
No,
happen.
but
anyway,
on
can
a
we move
Secret Service.
Can we move on to,
and-
no. Can we move on to Daniel Craig?
go.
Can you give me a Pierce Brosnan impersonation before we go?
Jinx, you say, mojito.
Is that it?
That's it.
I'm just here for the birds. Anyway, so okay, now we move on to Daniel Craig.
Okay.
I mean,
Now,
kind of listen. As opposed to Brosnan being in some horrible films, I think Daniel Craig, a Bond that I'm not a big fan of, was in possibly the best Bond film, which is, in my opinion, Casino Royale.
you love that film?
I do love that
love that
film,
film.
but I don't love him as Bond.
Okay.
I mean, I know it's an origin story, so I know the Bond personality in that film has not yet fully developed, and then it progressively develops in the other films, but I don't think he does a good job of any of it.
Really?
I think he's too gruff. I think he's too brutish. He doesn't have any of the slickness or suaveness of any of the Bonds who came before him, including Dalton. He just lacks charisma. He's
Okay.
constantly got a stupid pout on his face.
Okay.
And then I don't know, as he's doing these Bond films, you can see it's getting to him a little bit and it's affecting his ego, and somehow he thinks he's the creator of Bond, and that sort of energy comes through in the films. Like he's responsible for Bond in some ways. Like, I gotta do it. Dude, shut up.
Okay.
Play the role, do your job, and move on.
Okay, can I ask you this?
You're not reinventing the wheel here.
Let me ask you this.
Yes.
What are his bright spots as Bond?
As I said, the physicality is
Okay, so
good.
you think that he's a good fighter, he's a good mover on screen?
Yes, he's good physically. He's horribly dressed in all the films, which, you know, the suits and whatnot are a big part the Bond persona.
Worse than Brosnan with the high 3-button Brioni?
Yes, worse.
Really?
10 times worse.
Alright.
Brosnan wears a suit far better than he does.
Okay.
Okay. Crap hair. You know, his manner is just off. It's fake. It's just a bit forced. He's trying so hard to be cool, and you're not cool, mate. You're just not cool.
Okay, I'm gonna have to dispute you on this point.
Go on.
Okay. I think. Did you like Layer Cake?
I did like Layer Cake,
Okay.
but he's not cool in that either.
You don't think so?
He's a bit cooler than he is as Bond.
Okay.
But he's not like. It's a different type of character. It's more of like a wise guy character.
Yeah.
And that's not Bond. Bond has to be cool and slick and sophisticated. He's not sophisticated at all.
I listen.
The only thing I'll give him is the physicality. That's it. The films are awful. The fact that they try to connect them and have some sort of follow through with all these films, which obviously was an afterthought.
Yes,
That
yes,
they
I
tried
agree
to
with
kind
you.
of like mesh it together.
Yes, I agree with you on that.
So bad. All of those films, apart from Casino Royale, are horrible. Half of Skyfall is okay. The rest are terrible.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's quite an indictment.
They
okay.
are.
Okay, I would
You're
like
telling me No Time to Die.
I would like to defend this.
Die is an atrocity. They
Really?
should be ashamed of
I don't think
themselves
it's that bad.
for making that film. It's
don't-
so bad. It's so poorly edited. There's no consistency in the characters and their motivations. They start with what's his face?
Cuckoo.
Exactly. And they moved on to Rami Malek. Who are these people? Who are these people? What's happened? Like,
Are you
it makes
actually?
zero
Are you?
sense.
Are you
The
actually
fact
telling me
that-
there are
the
plot
fact
holes in a
that-
Bond
the
film?
fact that Cuckoo is suddenly his stepbrother. I mean, are you
that was
joking?
in Spectre, not in Night Time.
Yeah, I know, but it's still like it's follow through.
Yeah,
Storylines.
I am.
You're like making fun of the audience. You're making fun of Bond fans. It's just such bad filmmaking.
Okay, listen. I'm gonna have to
Defend him?
I'm gonna have to defend him on this.
Fine.
Right.
Hurry up because I want another pint.
I'm gonna have to defend him on this. I think when he came in after the Brosnan era,
Yes.
which for me yielded 4 of the worst entries in the entire catalog, in the entire library.
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
You know what?
I think there's a breath
You know
of
why?
fresh
I'll
air.
tell you what the Brosnan. Sorry. Just why I think the Brosnan films are better because they don't take themselves as seriously as the Craig ones. The Craig
You're
ones
defending the Brosnan films?
Yes, over the Craig ones because at least they're like having fun with it. I know they're crap, but at least they're having fun with it, right? They're being ridiculous, they're being silly, they're being over the top. The Craig ones, what do you think? What do you think this is? Shakespeare? It's not. Take it easy, guys.
Okay,
it's not
first
freaking
of all, in his defense, I actually have to say that when I saw, because we love Casino Royale, so you will admit at least the point that Casino Royale not only trumps every Brosnan film, for you it might be the quintessential Bond film,
Yes.
which almost,
You know what?
which almost,
Actually, no,
which
no, no,
almost
no,
should
no,
make
wait,
you
wait,
forgive
no, which,
the
you know
other.
what? No. Let's
The other 4
let's
films.
reel that in. It's a great film. It's a great film, and you know Bond is constricted by some of the what you call it, the tropes that it has to follow, because it's a bit of an origin story. You know, it kind of is allowed to go off in different directions. You know, and plus it has what's his name,
Matt Mickelson.
the greatest villain of
Yeah,
all
he's
time.
excellent.
He
Excellent.
makes the film.
And Eva Green.
And Eva Green, amazing. Do you know what I mean?
We're
So
not
good.
we're not disputing this here.
Yes. And that guy who's that friend that we used to see in Tramp all the time. The big black guy who
Adi Infanti.
Yeah, your boy. Yeah, exactly. He too. My boy.
Okay. Okay, first of all, I would like to, again, you didn't let me defend him.
Sorry.
I think the fact that they took this I want to say like this blunt instrument and cast him as Bond, which
You're
was
using like
which was in
you're using the lines that like Dench uses and it's so like bleh, I want to puke.
which was
This blunt instrument.
which was in
Go
stark,
back to Jiggery Pokery, mate. That was far better.
which
Let
was-
me go check on a thing.
which was in stark contrast to all the other castings. Well,
40 minutes.
which was in stark contrast to all the other castings they had made.
Yeah.
To the extent that he didn't come from the
Oh. Yeah, go on.
to the extent that he didn't come from the
Sorry? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, go on.
the school of Moore, the school of Brosnan, the school of the school of Connery.
Yeah, sorry.
He didn't come from that kind of. He didn't come from that kind of background. I think made his challenge of convincing audiences of his interpretation that much harder and that much more impressive, because he didn't look like Brosnan, he didn't look like Dalton, he didn't look like Moore, he looked like the antithesis. Whatever. But so, do you not give him credit for the fact that he managed to take that, right?
I don't give him credit.
And then and so
You know why I
win
don't
over
give him
audiences.
credit?
Why not?
Because he's to take yourself seriously, man.
But you accept that he won over audiences to the extent that critics and audiences alike were reverential in their praise towards him.
And by the way,
They're all morons.
No. Yes, number one. And number two, they also were heavily influenced by those Jason Bourne films, which again is a bit of a cop-out.
Well, I mean, it doesn't matter though.
I'm just thinking of more things wrong with it. But anyway.
Okay, so we know his
Listen,
interpretation.
let's not get into the films.
Okay.
Let's just talk about him as a character
Okay.
as Bond.
I give him thumbs up. Okay.
What does
And-
he add that the others haven't?
Oh, okay.
He's not as vanilla as Pierce Brosnan.
Okay, he's tougher.
He's definitely not as charming as Roger Moore.
He's not.
He's not as intense as Dalton. He's not as slick, suave, sophisticated, and macho as Connery.
No. But he, you know what it is? You know what it is?
He doesn't wear the kilt as good as
Lazenby. Okay, but this is why I rank him.
Okay.
I rank him high.
He's blonder.
Okay.
That's his only position.
Exactly. That's right. I think have you seen him recently
Yeah.
doing these Nueve adverts?
Dude, don't even get me started. This is what I'm talking about. This is the problem with that guy.
All right. Let me
And by
just,
the way, he's got this like love-hate relationship with Bond.
Yes, I agree with you.
At some, he's so like he takes it so seriously, but he tries to play it off cool, like, oh, it's not that important to me. It's your life, bro.
But Connery,
just own it.
Connery had a bit of that as well. He he
No,
kind
but
of.
you could tell he didn't care that much. Connery
No.
didn't care.
No, he didn't care.
He does care, but he pretends not to care.
I see. Okay.
That's the thing. He does care deeply. He knows he's nothing without Bond, but he's like, oh yeah, I'm bigger than this.
All right,
I'm
glass
gonna,
onion.
I'm gonna dance in a Loewe ad. Like,
Oh yeah.
give me a break. Okay, anyway,
Okay.
what does he bring to the role?
Okay, what I was gonna say is, I don't think he scores. He's not at the top of any of the scoring charts.
Right.
But, okay, so I'm not saying that. So he's not as intense.
I'll
as,
just give him the
wait,
physicality. Sorry.
He's not as intense as Dalton.
Yeah.
But he is intense.
Yes.
Okay. He's not as athletic.
Yes.
As Messrs. Connery and Lazenby,
Yes.
but he's athletic.
Yes.
Or he might be more athletic.
Yeah,
actually,
yeah.
Okay. He's not as sexy as Connery.
Yeah.
Okay, but he does have sex appeal.
Yes.
Okay. He's not in the best films. Okay, but
How long
he's
is this gonna last,
Hold on,
this
hold on.
list?
But he's in good films.
Okay.
Okay. So what I'm saying is that unlike some of the others,
Spectre good, yeah?
no, but he did 5 films.
But
Okay?
Spectre good.
No, it's not good.
Okay.
But Casino,
No time is that good.
Casino Royale amazing. Okay, I like Quantum Solace a lot.
Fine. Okay.
Zaritsky and Dyson, I think they kind of
But
agree
again,
with me.
like-
Okay, wait, hold on. Okay,
By the way, shout out David Zaritsky,
Yeah.
Calvin Dyson.
Yeah.
We love you.
Okay,
You inspired
yeah,
us.
yeah,
You
okay.
yeah.
Skyfall, by the way, is a very good piece of filmmaking. I think it goes on a bit too long. But it's a great piece of filmmaking.
I know.
You
but
disagree?
Like the first half is good, and the fact that it subverts all those previous Bond tropes is good. I like that aspect of it. But what does the end turn into? The end turns into some like
Dench dead.
Anyway, don't get me into
Okay, Spectre very bad, and No Time to Die decent.
awful.
I think it's decent.
Awful.
I think it's
What's
decent.
decent about it? It doesn't even make sense.
Well,
It doesn't even make sense.
again, this man is trying to find plot holes in a Bond film. I mean, it doesn't make sense. Yeah, Moonraker made sense. I mean,
No,
yeah.
but I'm saying-
Die Another Day made a lot of sense, by the way. Yeah, because
those films don't take themselves seriously, so it doesn't matter. This one does. This one's trying to be bigger than it is and more cerebral than it is.
All right, fine.
Those ones aren't. They know what they are. Do you know what I mean? This is the problem. Anyway, let's move on.
we agree to partially disagree.
Okay, so
now
what-
we have potentially
wait,
a new.
wait. So what, did you say what you liked about Craig?
I said,
Alright, fine.
I said he is not that. He's not the most intense.
Yeah.
He's not the most handsome. He's not the most athletic.
Yeah.
He's not necessarily in the best films.
Yeah.
But he is like. But he's not at the bottom of any of those lists.
Okay, fine.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
He's the bottom of my list.
Well, he's the bottom of your list. Okay, fine. Anyways, now, and by the way, I want to say something else. Just, I know, we
Anyway.
just because we were talking about Brosnan for a lot.
Yeah.
I'd like to just make a point,
Yes.
point out how I think Brosnan should have played the role. Okay.
Go on.
Okay. Have you seen The Tailor of Panama?
Yes.
Okay. Based on Jean le Carré's novel.
Yes.
Okay. He plays this sleazy, smarmy, sardonic, morally ambiguous
Yes.
person. He plays it very funny, and he's a bit of a kind of quasi-despicable character, and he does it very, very well. I think Brosnan should have played Bond that way.
And I think he should be back in a Bond film, maybe not playing Bond, but maybe as another
He's like
character.
71.
I know. I mean, did you not see him at Wimbledon this year? You see how good he looks.
I did,
You
yes.
see how cool he is. You see how like suave and sophisticated and slick he is. Do you know what I mean?
I did.
All he needs is a good Bond film, well directed, well written. That's all he needs, and trust me, he can still do it. I believe in him. I still think he should be given a chance over a what's his face?
Aaron Taylor Johnson.
ATJ.
Okay.
Okay.
But ATJ now.
ATJ now.
If he's the front runner.
He's the front runner. I think he could be good. I think there's going to be a bit of cheekiness to him. I think he's going to be a
All
bit.
right. How's he gonna play it?
I think there's going to be a bit of humor. I don't think he's going to take it as seriously as Daniel Craig, but I think he will have intensity. I mean, some of his other roles in Tenet and this and that, he's a bit of a tough guy, right? But he's also a bit of a joker in that film Bullets.
The Bullet Train.
Bullet Train, for example.
Yeah.
You know, there's a bit of wit and sarcasm to him as well, and a bit of silliness, which is what we need. You know, these guys you're not like playing Hamlet, Daniel Craig. You're playing James Bond.
Okay, can I ask you this? The one thing that is very pivotal whenever a new Bond is cast.
Yes.
Is how the opening scene takes place, right? So, it's always like some sort of announcement of the new actor arriving.
Yes.
If you remember in the most famous one, forget about Sean Connery, but after Sean Connery leaves, George Lazenby is announced. That's a great opening scene where you don't see his face. He's like in Portugal following.
That's one of the greatest opening scenes.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then you remember the final scene at the end when he rescues
Yes, we talked
Diana
about.
Rigg from drowning, but then she like escapes in the car. This never happened to the other fella, right?
Yes.
A great line, one of the most famous lines. Roger Moore has like more of a nondescript opening scene in Live and Let Die. It's not a great one. Okay, Timothy Dalton has the scene like on the Rock of Gibraltar, and then Pierce Brosnan has a great opening scene when, if you remember, like the first scene is when he descends into that bathroom stall, and in that, and the guy's reading a newspaper.
Yeah, this is after the pre-credits.
No, it's in the pre-credit sequence.
Oh, okay.
And then he's like, what's it called? Should I have knocked?
Beg your pardon, forgot to knock.
Beg your pardon, forgot to knock. Okay. Of course, the Daniel Craig kind of intro, I think is an amazing scene, the black and white scene. You didn't like that?
Yeah, I don't love it. I get it. It's not like that. Wow. I mean, it gives a little bit of a backstory, but it's not like impressive.
I think it's fantastic, and I think it's fantastic. It's not so over the top
because of that.
And there's that flashback.
Yes,
remember?
Yes.
And then obviously, I think it's fantastic how eventually when he picks up the gun, when he's the guy he's about to kill. Anyway, we don't know.
Do you think Christopher Nolan will make the next one?
I think he should.
He definitely should.
I think he should.
With ATJ.
ATJ.
Aaron.
Yeah.
All right, so we want Aaron. I think he's going to be good. I think he's got the physicality. I think he's got the acting chops. I think he's got the humor. I think he's got the sophistication. Whether he has a sex appeal,
I don't know.
And the suaveness, and maybe not the sophistication. Actually, I take that back. Maybe he doesn't even have that. But at least it's not Henry Cavill. That's what I'm saying.
Damn it! By the way, I was hoping you wouldn't say that. Can I ask you this? If you were to give any pointers, maybe it's already been written.
Yes.
But given that in the last film, Bond's been killed off. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
So this opening,
Yes.
a great deal of writing has to be put into it.
I think forget about it. I think don't even
Oh,
look
there's
back
no-
on it.
there's no
Start
kind of
afresh.
winking
Don't-
to the
no,
camera
no,
about-
no, nothing. No references made to those atrocious films that came before. Start afresh. Start with an origin story, or maybe not even. Just start on a mission, a brand new mission with Bond.
I don't think
We
that's-
know,
I
we
think
know the
that's-
backstory.
I don't think
we
that's
don't
good
need
enough.
it. We just need a good Bond film.
Can I submit-
And bring back Brosnan.
Can I submit something to you?
Yes.
How about this as an idea?
Go on.
Okay, setting it in the 60s.
Why?
Well, because that would actually turn the franchise on its head.
Yeah, maybe.
Because how are you going to make it discernibly different from what we've seen before?
Well, the world has changed, you know, and you've got those little virus bugs killing people.
That was
You've got-
referenced.
Exactly.
That was
because it's
referenced in the
crap.
last movie.
It's crap.
That was referenced in the last movie.
I know.
Would you not? Would you
I'm
not?
taking the piss.
Do you not think it would be? Listen, it's ambitious because it would
No,
be
it can be
ambitious for
done.
audience. No. But I'm saying that it might alienate the audiences if they think this is a period piece, a period Bond piece could be alienate them. But do you not think maybe setting it in the 60s could be an interesting slant?
Sure. We've been speaking for an hour now. Could it be an interesting slant? We leave it to you. Follow, like, subscribe, please. And I think we should wrap it up there.
Thank you. And by the way, I was waiting to drop my cliched line, but you didn't reference the fact that I was drinking wine instead of beer today. And you finished your beer, but can you cheers me? You had me at Merlot.
What's that from?
I made it up.
Rubbish.
Really?